First Seance, with Kai Maggie, from YouTube account, by HS1, in Germany, on May 17, 2011. I got the chance to sit in a seance, with Kai Maggie, currently the only German physical medium, that gives public demonstrations, of his ability. The evening started with Kai talking about the development of his mediumship over the last few years. The sitters were all ears, when ectoplasm was mentioned, and the controversy, that surrounds it. In fact, one of the main reasons why people attend Kai Maggie's seances is the possibility to see large amounts of this mysterious substance in full red light. As it was not a big group, the seance was held in a particularly small room, the advantage of this being close contact with the medium, and at times the chance of hearing him breathe in the dark. In the proceedings, 2 sitters were chosen to check Kai's bindings during the experiment, in order to ensure the genuineness of the macrophysical phenomena. Following the preparation, we listened to relaxing meditation music, while Kai was slowly drifting into the trance state, inside the cabinet. A few minutes later an old man's voice came from the medium's position, which clearly differentiated from Kai's voice, who is a 42-year-old man. The communicator introduced himself as Hans Bender, a late German parapsychologist, who spent much of his career studying macrophysical manifestations, and now is glad to be the one responsible for the phenomena. He then mentioned that a group of spirit scientists, called the chemists, is working with him on the realization of the seance events. After his short talk, some of the sitters reported sensations of small animals crawling over their knees. One woman was convinced a spider sat on her arm. However, Hans Bender was adamant that no insects were actually present. The chemists were merely duplicating sensations on our skin. A few moments later the first spirit light appeared in the room, and circulated in front of several sitters, me included. Some of them were very dim, and hardly recognizable, but others glowed quite brightly, and were moved skillfully through the room. While this was happening, we could hear Hans Bender comment the whole process from the cabinet, which served as good proof that Kai was still firmly bound in his chair. The next manifestation was the appearance of a hand on a lighted plate that was placed several meters away from the medium. Loud music was played, when finally, 3 fingers became visible for everyone. A bit later the full hand could be seen, and I noticed from my position that it was not attached to an arm, but still moved very lively. Then something rather peculiar occurred. Hans Bender asked the circle leader to open the door for a few minutes, to cool down the medium's body, which had become quite heated during the seance. As we all could clearly see that Kai sat inside the cabinet, a strand of ectoplasm hung down a curtain, and overlaid the face of a woman. Now that I was fortunate enough to sit close to her, I could make out the exact appearance of this substance. It very much looked like an incredibly fibrillar cloth that went right through the matter of the curtain. The rest of the group, who could see it too, confirmed my observation. After the door was closed again, the woman remarked the cloth has disappeared. Now Hans Bender announced a flying handkerchief, a typical phenomenon of a Kai Maggie seance. The handkerchief was illuminated and held by a sitter. It was pulled quite strongly by someone invisible and moved to another position. One woman reported she could feel the grip of a hand while she was holding the handkerchief. After all these amazing events there was only little energy left, and Hans Bender intended to use it for the ectoplasma demonstration. Only a few minutes had passed when the cabinet was opened, and the red light put on. Kai leaned forward, choked heavily, and all of a sudden an incredibly whitish substance emanated from his mouth, pulled out by his hands at a speed that reminded me of a fountain. The light was shut off again and Hans Bender commented that the substance was created directly in Kai's mouth. But the most interesting part was still to come. Another couple of minutes went by and then the red light was on again. It revealed the entranced Kai Maggie completely clothed in the whitish substance from his head to his feet. Again after a few minutes had passed, the ectoplasm was changed again, and looked like a long cotton wool pinafore, in which 2 distinct faces could be observed. One belonged to a woman and the other to a man. Hans Bender meant they were deceased relatives of 1 or 2 of the sitters, but nobody could identify them. After all, I'm glad Kai gave us amazing proof of the existence of this much discussed substance. Summary: Kai Maggie is 42 years old, though the communicator Hans Bender was much older and used a vocabulary different from Kai's way of speaking. Every time phenomena occurred, the sitters held hands and Hans Bender's voice could be heard from the cabinet. Therefore it was impossible to doubt the position of the medium. The highlight, of course, was the ectoplasm emanating from the medium's mouth, an event which validated the findings of Charles Richet, who coined the term ectoplasm. From YouTube, The Count by HS1, in Germany. Sent to Kimbo99.